am so excited. Today, we get to talk to the author of Food Intelligence, Julia Belluz. And Julia is in Paris, France right now. What? Yes, she is living there. We did get an opportunity to talk to the other co author of Food Intelligence, Kevin Hall. And Kevin looked like he was kind of a thin, fit guy his whole life. But Julia, she's one of us. She's experienced the struggles of being very overweight, and she now has lost a bunch of weight. Last I heard in the book, she was down 70 pounds. So we're going to ask her about how she's been able to lose the weight and keep it off, and some of her best takeaways of writing Food Intelligence with Kevin Hall. So now, with no further ado, live from Paris, France, woohoo, Julia Belluz. Yay!
Hello. I think this is the best intro, the most enthusiastic intro I've ever received. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Oh, it's so exciting to have you, Julia. Now, Julia, did you grow up in Canada? And is that right?
Yes, yeah, I'm from Canada and I spent some time in the States working in Washington, D.C. And then because of my husband's job, we moved to Europe. So first Vienna and now we're based out of Paris.
Wow.
Yes.
That, that is super exciting.
Yeah, a little bit of a confusing biography. I think my kids still don't know where they're from or what their nationality. They don't know who to root for in the Winter Olympics, but
Oh, yeah.
okay, yeah, it makes it interesting for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Now, in the beginning of your book, Julia, or well, you know what, before we talk about that real quick, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because I know you were a food journalist first.
Yeah, so I was I guess a more general public health reporter when I was based in Washington, and I used to work for the news outlet called Vox. And so I did everything from like covering Ebola outbreaks and measles and the vaccine issues um, but because of the background that you mentioned, like these struggles with weight and nutrition, I was quite interested in those issues. And when I was living in the US, we were seeing obviously these trend lines increase for obesity, diabetes, and other diet-related chronic diseases. And I started to
Yeah.
realize I'm definitely not alone. There are so many people who are struggling. And like what is it what's going on that we're seeing these increases, like population-wide increases simultaneously across age groups in the US, and we're obviously seeing it in most countries around the world. So what's going on? And I started to report on that at Vox, and that's how I got to know Kevin. He also lives in the DC area, and he's a great guy, and he's a wonderful source. And we just started talking and yeah, having lots of conversations, and that led to the book. And when I moved to Europe, I was still working for Vox, and eventually I started writing for the New York Times, where
Mhm.
I do contributing opinion essays. So, but they're mainly now they're focused more narrowly on chronic disease and nutrition and GLP-1 and things like this. Yeah, they're a little bit. My focus is narrowed, especially since the book.
Well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
that's a pretty neat background. And she's been saying Vox, VOX, is
yes,
what she had worked for, and
Not box with a
yeah,
B.
not box with a B, but
yeah, not
Vox
Fox,
with a
not
V,
Fox. Yes,
Yeah.
Vox
yes,
with
yes,
a
yes,
V. And
yes.
I'm going to have Jeff show a picture right here of another YouTube video that Julia did, I think 9 years ago, with
Okay.
Kevin about exercise.
Oh
And
wow.
does
Yes.
exercise help you with weight loss? But you can look it up, and that's what the thumbnail looks like for that particular video. And I was
Um,
curious, as one of my first questions for you about doing that video with Kevin about 9 or 10 years ago about exercise and weight loss. Have your thoughts changed at all?
Yeah, so the premise of that, so it was a story that then became a video. And by the way, thanks for you've done your research, so thanks for
Hmm.
for digging that up. But yeah, so the premise of that was this idea that, I think when we eat the extra slice of pizza, or New Year's rolls around and we want to lose weight and really focus on it, the first thing that comes to mind is, I got to join the gym. I have to increase the amount of time I'm spending on physical activity. Um, and there's this idea that it's calories in, calories out, that, yeah, if you do the spinning class in the morning, you can have the extra, whatever it is, dessert at night. And I realized, like through talking to Kevin and the work of many other researchers, that exercise isn't, when you talk about like why do we have these, in particular the population level increases, the calories in matter so much more than the physical activity part of the equation. And so it's really about what you're eating, and it's quite easy to undo the like 2 hour or 1 hour spinning class in the morning. You can undo it very quickly with like a few, donuts or pieces of pizza or whatever the thing is. And so
Hmm.
I was trying to draw attention to what we end up writing about a lot in the book, which is how the food environment changed, and that our food and the food that we're eating is actually where we should put a lot of the focus when we're thinking about weight loss. When you're talking about improving your health, exercise is so important for so many
Hmm.
factors. And like,
Oh, yeah.
people refer to it as a wonder drug, and there's so many reasons you should exercise. And so emphasizing weight loss when we think about exercise, I think it did a really like bad thing to exercise. We made it kind of drudgery, this thing you have to do to
Hmm.
keep the weight off or whatever it is, or to battle the bulge, or however you want to say it, instead of this like joyful thing we should all be doing as part of our lives to lead healthy long lives. That's something I think a lot about now. And also about how whenever you pull any of these levers, you sleep more, you sleep less, you exercise more, you exercise less, you change what you're eating, you change the number of calories you're eating, you're having this physiological response. And
Hmm.
um, and with exercise, I think there is something. The focus in that piece was how when you increase your energy expenditure through exercise, people tend to eat more. I talked about that in the piece, but I didn't get
Yeah,
into
you
like
did.
what happens once, like after in the long term. Like let's say you really can keep it up,
Hmm.
your body adapts, and yeah, maybe we didn't get into that part as much, that you maybe don't have the increases in cravings and hunger that you might at the beginning of exercising more. So anyway, it's complicated like everything. I think that piece still stands up, and I think it's an important message to look at the food environment and look at what you're eating when you're trying to approach weight loss and thinking through body weight.
It is a really interesting video, and it's gotten over 1 million views. So it really did take off about because people thought, oh, well, if I exercise more, that's how I'm going to lose weight.
I
I,
like the graph where it shows this is how much you're burning with your basal metabolism. This is how much exercise is, and this is how much. That was
Yeah,
yeah, it was
telling.
yeah.
very good. Like if you exercise really hard and you burn off like 250 calories or whatever. But if you are not watching what you're eating, you can get a little hungrier because you exercised and you might overcompensate for that. And then the
Yeah.
weight's not going to come off.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But all the while, if you continue to exercise, yeah, you're probably improving your health. Just we need to
Hmm.
decouple it from this idea that it's like a magic bullet for weight loss. But then the interesting twist is that when you look at like Kevin's shown this in his work, and others have found this, when you look at the long-term management of weight loss, weight maintenance, so someone like me, you lose weight and you've kept it off over a longer period of time, exercise seems to be a critical factor in helping people manage the weight they've lost. So while it's not like
Hmm.
you really have to deal with the appetite side and the calorie intake side of the equation when you're losing the weight, to manage the weight loss long term. Exercise becomes this important part of a healthy lifestyle. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's not these messages aren't easy for the TikTok era. Like they're quite nuanced, and these different factors are affecting each other.
Exactly. A quick example that I can give is when I was in college, I gained a lot of weight my freshman year. First semester, I gained 40 pounds. I went from 110 pounds to 150 pounds. I still didn't look that bad at 150, but it freaked my mother out when I came home for Christmas that I gained 40 pounds in a semester. And she said, Gina, pregnant ladies don't gain that much in a semester in that many amount of months. You've got to do something about this and nip it in the bud as best you can. So I was like, okay. So I go back to college after Christmas break and I talk my girlfriends into going swimming. And there is a big swimming pool, Olympic sized swimming pool. And we would walk to there. We would swim, but we didn't swim fast laps. We kind of splashed around, chatted with the guys because we were still cute, and and we had a good time. And we burnt some calories. Probably the most calories was walking to the swimming pool. But next to the gym, to that swimming pool, was a Dairy Queen. And I'm older than
Deadly.
you, and I went to college between 84 and 88. So this was my freshman year. So this is 84, 85. 1984, 85. And we would go because we swam and we felt so good about ourselves. We got our exercise in. So we can go to Dairy Queen, and they just came out with the Blizzard. And for those in Paris, they might not have Dairy Queen Blizzards, but it is a big thing of ice cream that they throw candy bars in and blend it, in different flavors. And we would just get the small Blizzard, because we were dieting and we just exercised. But a small Butterfinger Blizzard is like 800 calories. But when
Right.
we exercise, there's no way walking to that pool and swimming the amount of time we swam, we did not burn off 1,000 calories. We maybe burned off 250, but we were taking
Right.
in 800 calories because we thought we could because we exercised, and that did not help us lose weight, though we did have a good time.
Absolutely. No, yeah. No, absolutely. I think many of us have committed some variation of this sin for sure. And I grew up in Canada and I'm well versed in Dairy Queen as well. It was delicious, although not great for the waistline for sure.
No,
Yeah.
no. And now I'm going to ask you another question related to exercise. And that is The Biggest Loser. So we know that Kevin Hall got to do experiments, kind of things, well, at least tests on the contestants of The Biggest Loser, the eighth season of The Biggest Loser. So he got to meet the contestants. He got to see what their metabolism was doing and do different metabolism tests. And then years later, he got to meet them again and see what their metabolism was doing and do some tests on them to collect that fantastic data. And I was curious, did you get to meet The Biggest Losers too?
No, I didn't meet them, but I talked to not all of them. Sorry, I talked to many of them on that on the season that he studied for reporting in the
Mhm.
book. And no, it's great that you brought that up because that show was really framed as this, was framed as this illustration of people just need to exercise. You take people who are struggling with obesity and you just make them exercise. I think it was like doing the work, they were doing like the workouts of like linebackers, basically, like just an
Mhm.
insane amount of exercise every day. And this will solve their weight problems. Like that's what you need to do. And Kevin was interested in investigating that claim, and he took all the measures that would be required to figure out what were the relative contributions of changing the diet versus these increases in physical activity. And what he found was the people who had the most profound weight losses were the ones who most drastically cut their calorie intake. So in other words, the exercise didn't seem to be the critical or determinative factor in who was going to lose the most weight. But when he followed up the contestants 6 years later, that's where
Mhm.
he also had that finding that the ones who kept the most weight off at that point were the ones who had continued exercising, and they weren't doing like when they were on this show, they were like exercise was basically their full-time job. So they weren't keeping up that level of exercise in their regular lives, but there was this association between physical activity and keeping the weight off. And where did my thinking change? I think it's like this idea that when you're someone who's exercising a lot, it is probably subtly changing. Maybe in the beginning, it's changing your appetite where you feel really hungry, like you did after you started swimming with
Hmm.
your friends. You come out of the pool and you want to just eat something and regain those calories. But once you're doing it, and I've experienced this, like I've become a more regular exerciser, although it's tricky sometimes with small children. But it kind of becomes part of your life, and you don't, I don't know, I feel like now it almost moves me in a healthier direction with my diet. And I wonder if that's something that these contestants experienced as well. Your body gets used to it, it adapts. And then like the days, when I've exercised in the morning, I won't come home and eat the like piece of cake or whatever it is. Like I feel
Hmm.
like I just did this good thing for myself, and now I'm going to make the virtuous salad for lunch. And like, I don't know when that flip happens. I don't know the science of that, but it must be
But that's got
something about,
mindset in it. Yeah, that's
yeah,
huge with
yeah, but
mindset.
this like, this adapting to that degree of energy expenditure, your body's used to it, and maybe
Oh, yeah.
you're not in this like fight mode where it's like get the extra calories in. I don't know, but when does that flip? I'm not sure, but I think it seems like anecdotally I've experienced this. It seems like the biggest losers
Hmm.
experience this. Many of them hadn't been very physically active when they went on to the show, and then they were doing this like absolutely incredible amount of physical
Oh,
activity,
yeah.
and across the board they continued to be more physically active years later. So that exposure at the during the season did change their behavior over the longer term. But yeah, there was this association. The ones who really kept up a regime were the ones who had the most success keeping the weight off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. And it's neat that you got to actually talk to them.
Yeah, it was, and as you said at the beginning, where like I've been in the trenches with you and with some of
Mhm.
the other viewers of this, I always find it very interesting to talk to people about their struggles and why they struggled, and how they felt about themselves, and what, and in their case, like what changed with the show, what insights did they gain.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it was fascinating and it was fun, and I think if you become selected to appear on a reality TV show, you're naturally a personality. So
Right.
they were really fun people to connect with and interview.
Oh, very
Yeah.
cool. Okay, my next question for you is in the book, it was mentioned that you've lost 70 pounds. Have you been able to keep that 70 pounds off?
Yes, I think it might could even be like a little bit more now from this very high.
Yeah.
And you alluded to this a little bit, like as a woman, I think, well, like, when you see this as girls are growing up or going through puberty, um, bodies change a lot and your weight fluctuates a lot. And it certainly did for me,
Mhm.
maybe even more so than for others. But I think, yeah, I was at this very high weight, maybe like early in university, I think it was. Um, and then I had like gradual, fluctuations, but mostly losing weight. And then but the weight loss, yeah, really accelerated around the time that I met my husband. And I think what really helped with keeping weight off was marrying someone. He's just very like he's very good at eating well. At one thing that I didn't have this concept, and I definitely have it now, and I think I've learned it through living with him, is that when you have these excessive moments, because you do in life, you have Christmas celebrations, like
Super
in
Bowl
this
parties.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you have all these Thanksgiving, yeah, Super Bowl. You have all these reasons where you're going to celebrate,
Mhm.
moderate after, like just have some days after where you're not starving yourself, but like if after the Christmas period, like these first couple weeks after Christmas, we're eating like lots of salads and lentils and food that was a little bit lighter. So it's like indulge and enjoy and have these moments where you're eating the meal that you want to eat, but
Mhm.
then you have to compensate on the other side. And that was something I think that probably, yeah, this weight loss that I had, it wasn't this like deliberate, I went on a diet and continued to lose weight and I was tracking myself every week. But it was through these like very structural changes to how I approach food, to how we live with food, um, and yeah, and so that was. But I had all kinds of attempts. So before, in this period where I was gaining weight to this peak, when I was, yeah, I guess probably over 70 pounds heavier than I am today.
Mm-hmm.
I had cycled through like every diet you can name. I tried even like I wasn't aware of supplements the way I am now, but I tried like the supplements. I tried Zone Diet, Atkins. I tried Weight Watchers,
Mm-hmm.
like
Me too.
What was
numerous
that one
times.
called where you had to
There's
live in a little room and they measured everything in and everything out?
Yeah,
And
that was the metabolism chamber. So that wasn't about weight, that wasn't about the weight loss experience,
okay.
but that was about just seeing what my metabolic rate was doing. Because I was someone who had this idea that one of the reasons I have this propensity for weight gain, that my weight
mm-hmm.
fluctuates and I put on weight so easily after I indulge is because I have a slow metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
I really believed this. And I think so many people believe this. We blame our biology and we don't look around us to how, we're surrounded by food, and the food that many of us live with and are surrounded by are the foods that are most likely to be overeaten and cause weight gain. And
Mm-hmm.
I found out in that metabolism chamber stay that I have a completely normal metabolic rate, and that this as that would be predicted for someone my age and gender, and that was not the cause of my struggles. But what I did do through this book, and through even before writing the book a little bit, was reflect on like, yeah, why did I struggle with weight so much when I was younger? And I grew up in this family that we have an Italian background, and
Me
it was
too.
always. Yes, yes, and so it was always, like, lots of wonderful food around and home-cooked
Mm-hmm.
food and lovingly prepared food, but
Mm-hmm.
there was also, like, the dark side of it. It was like lots of food pushing and
Mm-hmm.
like, there's like a real focus on food, but in a loving way. And I have this too now with my kids. Like, I'm very fixated on what are the meals going to be and how are they going to eat, and are they getting, good things to eat. And so I grew up in that environment, but it was also the 80s and there was tons of ultra processed food around.
Oh
So tons
yeah.
of like junk food, Pop Tarts for the breakfast, sugary cereals, the frozen cheesecakes in the freezer, ice creams,
Mm-hmm.
candies, yeah, cookies, kind of anything you can imagine. And what we argue in the book and what the science shows is like, just get these out of your environment, out of the equation, because they're designed to be overeaten. They're designed to be overeaten.
Right.
And it's not your failure of willpower. It's not because I was like a kid who lacked will that I was struggling to eat these things, but my particular physiology meeting this food environment was really like detrimental. And I
Mm-hmm.
put on lots of weight, and but we see like I'm no different from the mice in studies that have been done since the 1970s, where it's actually really hard to get adult rat, or sorry, these were rat studies. It's really difficult to get adult rodents to eat to excess and gain weight without lesioning their brains. But in the 1970s, this brilliant American researcher, Tony Sclafani, he finds that actually you can get adult rats to eat to excess and gain weight if you expose them to basically ultra processed foods and other hyper
Wow.
palatable junk foods of the kinds I was overeating and struggling with, and perhaps you and many of the viewers were too. Yeah, this was the big mindset shift for me. It's not a flaw. It's really not about anything to do with willpower. It's about our physiology meeting these foods and these food environments that makes it
Mm-hmm.
extremely difficult to
And
regulate.
that research from the 1970s, that is in the food intelligence book. There's a whole bunch of research studies that are told in food intelligence, just like that story that Julia just told us. That is in here too. And that is one of the reasons I loved your book so much. And you did a great job of sharing those stories to make all this scientific research interesting and easy for the regular person to be able to read and enjoy and learn from. And the takeaway, I mean, just like what you said there, rats normally if you feed them rat chow, which I didn't know there was such thing as rat chow. You know, there's puppy chow and there's dog chow and cat chow, but there's rat chow. And if you give rats extra rat chow and they can eat all the rat chow they want, they do not overeat. They eat enough until they're full and satisfied, and they, I don't know, and then they run around the cage, maybe get a little exercise on their little exercise wheel or whatever, but they don't overeat it. But if you give them Pop Tarts and Fruit Loops was one of the things I think they'd given, but that, you know, that really good ultra processed, super tasty, ultra processed foods, they will overeat. They'll just keep eating until they explode practically.
That's right. Yeah. And I think it's really I think what's so upsetting to me as someone who lived through this and bought all the things, the diet books, yeah, the gimmicks, the Stairmaster, the ab machine,
Yeah.
anyway, I bought all of them. I did all of them. The whole diet industrial complex is premised on this idea that it's about you. You just need to like take the thing, try the diet, do the exercise regime, whatever it is. Um, it's not about like how did our environments change in ways that many people are like the rodents in this study. They're spontaneously overeating in ways
Mhm.
that they didn't before, and they're putting on weight. And in our case, they're developing other diseases like type 2 diabetes and
Mhm.
cardiovascular disease and all these other illnesses we now know are so deeply related to the food that we're eating. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. But I think many of us, yeah, we still blame ourselves, and I hope that one thing we really hope to get across in the book is this mindset shift that we have to start thinking about these structural factors that are contributing to the struggles of so many of us.
That was a
Mhm.
real relief for me to read about that, because thinking that you don't have enough willpower to do something does elicit shame
Mhm.
and blame.
Absolutely, yep. No, for sure. I think it's true for men. I think it's like the pressure on women and women's bodies. I think it's even probably more acute.
Yeah.
Um, maybe not today, actually. Maybe men are also under this, in the manosphere and these other places, like under this tremendous pressure to
Mhm.
look a certain way. But no, you feel this, yeah, this sense of like, why can't I just get it together? And I was
Yeah.
very puzzled because I had so much will to do and determination and drive to do all these other things in my life. And
Mhm.
this was a place where like I just felt like I can't get it together. I can't get it together. Um, and then so this was also I had the same feeling as you learning about this research and where the body of evidence really it points not to um, these changes in physical activity. It points to the increases of calorie availability and calorie consumption that we've all been living through as the driver of population level obesity. So
Mhm.
yeah, this was like a very liberating and satisfying message for me to get to, just as a someone who was researching the subject. Um,
Exactly.
but I think once you've struggled with weight, these struggles they like it. Yeah, I think I use this line. I think it's in the book, but it feels like this invisible scar. Even if you lose the weight, you still carry around.
Hmm.
Like I think I still always buy clothes that are too big for me, and like things like it's still part of the psyche, or even yeah, certainly like rationally, I can understand now, yeah, what my food environment looked like growing up, and this like gradual environmental change that I lived, and then the body change that I experienced. I can like see all this, but you still, yeah, I still feel like a bit like, is it embarrassed or like, I don't know actually. No, that maybe sorry. I want to restate that. Sorry, because I don't know if
Okay.
I don't feel embarrassed anymore, but I still do. I guess, yeah, here's a way to put it. I still feel like, do I wish I was a teen, and like I wish I started university with like a body that I was more comfortable in? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But I'm very grateful to the researchers, and I hope the policymakers are listening and they start to change environments so more people don't have to struggle the way I did and the way you both have and the way I'm sure many people who are watching this have.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions I asked my fellow shipmates to please give me some questions to ask you today, so they could have their questions answered. Here's one that Jeff did. What would you say is the first best step, maybe the single most successful public policy or strategy for dealing with obesity that another country has adopted that the U.S. might be able to emulate?
So I sitting here in Paris, I was fascinated by like the Parisians, they're skinny, and the French people are thin, much thinner than even their counterparts in other European countries. And I would have like, when people visit Paris, they're kind of like, especially from my friends in the States visit, and they're kind of like marveling at how skinny the Parisians are, and how people are so thin here. And I was very curious, like how did like why did that happen? Like if the thesis of the book is true, we're objects of our environments.
Mhm.
What environmental factors have contributed to France having this relatively low obesity rate, and not seeing these like surges that we've seen in the US, the UK, and other countries? And what I found was when they started to become really concerned about obesity and other diet related diseases in like around the early 2000s, and they put in place a suite of policies to basically do what we argue in the book: nudge people toward the healthier options and minimize like the visibility or the accessibility of the less healthy options. And so this included things like, in schools, they have a long history of like excellent school lunches. Like the kids are eating these kind of wonderful three-course meals. So they have this long tradition. More recently, they've worked on improving the nutrition in school lunches. But for years, they removed junk food vending machines in schools, acknowledging that children are a very vulnerable population. If you can prevent
Mhm.
the kind of stuff that we lived through, we'll all be much better off. So how can we improve the environments in schools? Let's feed them. Let's make lunches available. Let's make lunches healthy, and let's remove these other temptations and junk food exposure from the school. They did things like, so in Paris, in every district. So Paris is sorted into arrondissements, these different districts, and in every district they have these open air fresh food markets, and they're really ubiquitous. Like you almost don't have to go to a supermarket where a lot of the junk food lives.
Mhm.
You can really do your shopping at these kind of stalls with fruits, vegetables, and basically there's no junk. It's like all the good stuff that you should be eating. So they have a policy. They have policies like that to preserve this tradition of cooking and having the fresh ingredients. They also really embraced, so, and this is, we also argue for this in the book, and it was fascinating to see that the French have done it. They've embraced healthy prepared options. So one of the most popular stores in France, and it's like on, it feels like it's on every street in Paris, is called Picard. It's a store where you go inside. It's like a grocery store, but everything is frozen and ready. And it there's junk food in there, but there's also like fresh prepared healthy meals. And their number one best-selling product is the green bean, frozen green beans. And there's aisles of the frozen ingredients that you could quickly use to assemble a healthy meal: fruits and vegetables, and even like chopped onions, chopped garlic, chopped parsley. Like everything is there. And the French really embrace that, and they also embrace this like kind of catering infrastructure as well. So you can just
Mhm.
go in and buy like a roast chicken or another. Basically, it's like the alternative to fast food junk. They have the healthy options. So they basically done, so alongside that sit the chocolatiers and all these other
Mhm.
places that are, maybe you don't want to be eating there every day, but the healthy options are extremely visible. They're very available. They're more affordable than in the US. And I think that reflects in this relatively lower obesity rate, and why you can walk around Paris and people have bodies that look like probably what we had in the US in the 1970s or 80s. It's not because the Parisians have superior willpower. It's because, yeah, they're objects of their environments, just the way
Mhm.
we were growing up in North America.
Wow, and you really answered Mindy's question about the differences between food and eating habits in Paris. So thank you very much for that. That was fabulous. And that's when you moved to Paris, that's when you lost the 70 pounds, correct?
No, 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 sorry. This
Okay.
70 pounds, it was like a gradual weight loss happening probably since my 20s.
Okay.
Um, and I think, yeah, I don't know if like, yeah, I'm not still in weight loss. Like I kind of hover around the same weight. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, no, it was a very gradual one that happened like moving out of my family home, creating my own food environment, and then, yeah, but in particular, actually moving to Europe, I did lose more weight. It coincided with having two small kids to run around and look after, so it's hard to,
Mhm.
to decipher what the different contributions are. But no, but it was really this, yeah, shifting of my personal food environment from the one I grew up in with lots of junk food around to one where, like in my house now, we certainly have treats, and especially around like birthdays and holidays, but we don't keep like kind of lots of the foods that we would tend to overeat. We just don't keep them in the house. And I don't say to the kids like these are terrible foods or foods you can eat, but it's like sometimes foods that we eat on occasion,
Mhm.
and it's nothing about you that you can like have them. We just don't eat them a lot. Like just kind of make it like keep it out of the house and make it minimize this as like a thing that they have to fight or feel tempted by and resist because it's,
Mhm.
as you know, we're just designed to lose that battle, right? So yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. So it was a slow, steady process of
yeah,
changing your own food environment
yeah,
that with
absolutely,
healthier
yeah.
options that helped you lose that 70 pounds.
Yeah, in this like earlier phase, so in my teens and like earlier 20s, like I was doing all that. That was the peak of all these like different diets.
Hmm.
Trying, yeah, the A to Z spectrum of like the diets and the supplements and all these things. And in that period, I was probably just, I think, gaining weight. I fluctuated, but it was like lots of gaining weight. And then the weight loss, um, and the significant weight loss, it was like, yeah, I think the significant weight loss really through my 20s, but really accelerated in my late 20s through my 30s
Well, just figuring out how you were able to lose
to lose the
when you
weight.
were
Yeah.
trying so hard,
Yeah.
uh, and you were just getting more overweight while you were trying to lose
Yes.
weight. You were doing the Weight Watchers and the exercise machines that you can have in
Yes.
your
Yes. Yes.
house
Yes.
and all those things, and you weren't winning. You were
Yeah.
still battling obesity, and then something clicked and changed for you, and then you were able to slowly lose 70 pounds and then keep it off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's a tough thing to like. I don't have this silver bullet like soundbite thing because like I remember like when I moved to Boston at one point, and I think I started this fellowship program, and I think I weighed less than I did at the end. I know what I could see in my life, like looking back at where the struggles were, it was like periods of significant stress. I would gain
Mhm.
weight. And now it's not as much of a factor for me. Like maybe I know how to buffer this or but I could see that pattern. Anyway, so I definitely had these fluctuations, but the big thing for me was moving out of my family home,
Mhm.
moving out on my own, and I really even like yeah, this long predates my husband who's yeah, as I said, he's like a very excellent person with like just like a naturally healthy good eater, and he grew up in a very healthy food environment. But when I moved out of my family home, I stopped buying the stuff at home because I recognized that I had this like sense of loss of control around particular foods, and I didn't like
Mhm.
that, and I just didn't want to keep them in my apartment. And so I it's not that I never did that, and as I said, my weight fluctuated even after that, but I had this. shift of like I'm just not going to keep it in the house because I find it really hard to like, for me it's like cookies, ice cream, like the sweet stuff. I still have like a crazy
Yeah.
sweet tooth, and it's like where I go when I'm tired and want a little boost. And I really I think I enjoy sweets. Like I think in moderation they're fine, but but I don't want to have them in my house all the time in excess.
Mhm.
I find it very difficult. And once I did that thing, that was I think where this like again it's like this thing that Kevin finds in his research and others have found when, and we what we know from the animal research as well, when you surround people with like healthy whole food options and not this like hyper palatable junk food, they spontaneously lose weight. And find this is true for myself. Like I'm not as tempted. I don't have this feeling of I really want to overeat when I have like a dinner like we did tonight, which was like chicken, salad, grilled cauliflower, and some fried peppers and things like that. It's not something that I feel like I have this feeling like I'm going to lose control around it and overeat. So
Mhm.
if you make that most of what you're surrounded by and what you're eating, I think you and we see this in the research, you can have this like spontaneously losing weight. The trick is many people can't do that. They don't have the time, wherewithal, resources to be able to cook for themselves, to be able to maybe eliminate the salt, sugar, fat laden prepared meals that tend to be what's available in the US. And it becomes a lot more difficult. Maybe you can do it for some period of time, but then you're back to relying on these unhealthy prepared meals or other junk foods. And yeah, that's where I think the infrastructure in Paris and in France is so interesting, because these healthy, fast alternatives do exist when you don't have the time to cook. And they not only exist, they're well done. They're foods you want to eat.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, yeah. But I wish I had like a very easy, this is what one trick, this is what I did. But it's really this, and again, it dovetails with the message of the book. It's this thing of shifting a food environment. Yeah, feel that I had some momentum with the weight loss.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mindy has a question. She says, knowing what you know now after co writing this book, what would you change about your own weight loss journey, if anything? Is there anything you would change?
I think this like early period of being a younger person who was just like devastated and beating myself up. And it like, yeah, I have a friend whose daughter is really struggling now with weight, and she's like just going through puberty and she's mortified by what's happening to her body. And I told my friend, like, just like back off. Like, I think it sounds like you also had a mom or family where you had some pressure around that. And I think like a lot of parents are well-meaning. They want us to be healthy and they want to see us prosper, and they get worried if it looks like we're going the other way. But I think like in particular as a girl or a woman, you're already so hard on yourself. And I think I wish I had
Mhm.
known these insights from research, and how so many of these like diets, you're just kind of set up to fail because you can't sustain them. And yeah, I think I would probably change those years of kind of beating myself up.
Oh, that's a great answer. Grant has a question. Do you feel like protein shakes are a good option? Some say that they make inflammation worse.
So the inflammation piece I'm not aware of, but we're definitely living through this moment, which was happening while we were writing the book, and I thought it would end, but it hasn't. It's almost gotten more intense, of protein mania.
Hmm.
So people are obsessed with getting more protein. And I think the key with protein that's really, so there's two things. For most groups of people, putting aside like people who live in institutional settings and the elderly, most people are getting enough protein or even more than the recommended daily intake. And number two, if you're eating excess calories, no matter the macronutrient they come from, they remain excess calories and you'll gain weight. So there's not some like magical thing where You can eat the meal and then top up with a protein shake and adding 200 or 300 more calories, and the calories will just build muscle. What builds muscle is resistance training. You do need to eat protein to compensate for that, but not crazy amounts of protein. And the dietary protein isn't what's going to increase the size of your muscles. It's the resistance training. So I think we attribute all these like mystical, magical things to protein now that aren't really supported by science. And there's a lot of questions about protein, like what is the optimal intake for all these different. So there
Wow.
is, there are questions about how much should people be eating for different types of optimization. Um, but yeah, again, for most people are probably okay, and it's not like something to stress over, and it's not a reason to start to intake extra calories, which will cause another problem, weight gain. So, but
Yeah.
I don't know about the inflammation piece of protein shakes. So sorry for that
No
piece.
worries. And this is a good place to say the best person to ask would be your doctor
Yes.
or a registered dietitian because they go
Yes.
to college to know for your age and
Absolutely.
sex and activity level what is the proper amount of protein for you because what you need is going to be different than someone else.
Absolutely. Yep.
And we're not doctors and we're not registered dietitians. But definitely ask them so you know what you're shooting for, because some is important, but it's not good to not have enough either, especially when you're taking a GLP-1, which is my next
Right.
question. I have type 2 diabetes, and what's really helped me to lose over 50 pounds and keep it off is taking Mounjaro has been so helpful for me. Now, my
Wonderful.
husband here, he does not have type 2 diabetes, and he was thin most of his life. It's recent that he's had to watch his weight and try to lose some weight with me. So he's not on a GLP-1. He's just doing the healthy lifestyle with me, and he's starting to lose some weight with me, which has been great for the two of us together. And I think, didn't it mention in the book that you did try a GLP-1 for at least a little bit, or have you
No,
never tried a
no, I
GLP-1?
didn't know. No, see, I haven't tried one, but
Oh, okay.
I've talked to many, many people who have. Yep.
Okay, so you've never personally tried one yet.
No, no, no.
Okay. Okay. All right. And Jeff's question that I have on the card here is, what have you seen or heard regarding the future of GLP-1s? Do you have any thoughts about it?
Yes, I do have thoughts. So I think one thing I think a lot about is how so that there's people taking these drugs for like it's gone far beyond diabetes and obesity. There if you kind of look through social media or Reddit or other forums online and talk to patients as I have. I've talked to, I don't know, maybe hundreds of patients at this point. People are taking these drugs for different conditions that they've been suffering with and couldn't get relief, from irritable bowel syndrome to arthritis to I talked to a woman with concussion. So I think this future is in understanding, and the drugs seem to be promising for kind of a much broader range of
Mhm.
indications than what they're currently approved for. But we don't understand fully why they seem to be helping in this, and especially with diseases that are related to chronic inflammation. We
Yes.
don't fully understand why, and we don't know optimal doses yet. But there's this like crazy amount of experimentation going on, and we live in an age where you don't even have to go to your doctor to get a prescription, right? You can do the um, telemedicine appointment or go to you can find all these ways around the system. And so a lot of the experimenting that's going on now is encaptured. And I actually have a piece coming out in the Times on this in the next, I don't know, will come out in the next couple of weeks. But
Okay.
um, so I think the future of these drugs, we're gonna open up beyond these indications that they've become popular for and that they were first
Mhm.
used for. Um, but the way people are using them, it's happening way ahead of what science can even understand. And so there's no way to, like, as one source that I talked to says, like, you can't clinical trial your way out of this because people are just so enthusiastic and using them for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Um, and we're seeing like these next generation drugs, they're causing even more weight loss. And there's questions about like how much is too much? Are we going too fast? And so
Mhm.
it's so exciting because I've talked to so many people who have had tremendous successes like you. And I do think about that.
Yeah.
If I was like a teenager going through what I went through, would I have taken these drugs? I don't know. But it's great that people have the option for treatment now. I hope that they don't take the gas pedal off these food environment questions to prevent
Right.
these diseases from happening in the first place and make it easier for all of us to maintain healthy body weights.
Mhm.
But I think we're really only at the beginning. Like we there's a lot to come. So it's going to
There
be fun.
really is.
Oh, before we go on, I was just curious, did you have any side effects or?
Oh, yes, very mild. I've
Okay, great. So
always
tolerable, very tolerable.
extremely
Okay,
tolerable.
good. Yeah.
For me, I'm currently taking the highest dose of Mounjaro, 15 milligrams. But I titrated up really slowly. I didn't hit 15 milligrams until over a year and a half. So, I did it slowly. I didn't move up quickly. But for me, I've always battled constipation. And so that's the one I have to stay ahead of,
Okay,
and
okay.
making sure that I'm eating enough fiber, that I'm drinking enough water,
Yes.
uh, is really, really important that I stay ahead of it. And, if I don't poop one day, I take Miralax the next day. And my doctor said for me, I could take Miralax, one dose of Miralax every day if I needed to, and it till I
Okay,
died, and
great.
it wouldn't
Okay,
hurt me.
super. Perfect.
But
Okay, that's great.
for
Yeah.
me, I just have to really stay ahead of constipation. I also cannot have more than one alcoholic drink in a day. And I don't drink generally anyway, except when on social occasions.
Yeah.
And when my parents come into town, they're wonderful. And they love spoiling me and my grown kids and now my grandkids. So it's their great grandkid. And they'd love to take us out to a fancy meal, and we can have appetizers, dinner, we can have cocktails and dessert. And that's a problem for me on my
Right.
GLP-1, because if I
What
eat
happens?
something
Yeah.
that's calorie rich and dense, if I can have one alcoholic drink with it, one cocktail, and I'm okay. But if I have two, I will wake up in the middle of the night with gastric emptying, and I'll lose it from both
Okay.
ends at the same
And
Ah,
time.
she will
yeah.
wake up her husband too.
Yeah, because it's
Oh man, I'm
horrible.
so sorry to hear that. Okay, yeah.
But if I
Yeah,
have
that's a
one,
range. Yeah.
yeah. So if I have one drink, like I can have one margarita, I can't have two margaritas.
Okay, interesting. Okay. But you were gonna say something. You said what you've
Oh, it's
learned
this
or maybe.
gastric emptying has only happened to me 3 times in over
Okay.
2 years. So only
Okay,
three
good.
times. And it
Okay.
took 2 times of me waking up in the middle of the night after having dinner with my family and having two alcoholic drinks, and I wasn't tipsy and drunk or anything. And there
Right,
was
right.
even some time in between, but with a heavy meal and then I throw a second alcoholic drink, I'm guaranteed
It's
get
over.
gastric
Okay, got
emptying.
it.
So I just
Got it.
don't. But I can
Super.
have one and be okay.
Great.
And
Um,
I had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and I've had my
Stage
liver
one.
stage
Okay.
1, and I had my liver ultrasounded. And after 8 months of being on Mounjaro, my liver ultrasound said it's gone. It disappeared. On 8 months of
okay.
being on Mounjaro, I
Fantastic.
lost it. There is no disease in my
Wonderful.
liver
Yeah, this is one of the
anymore.
questions of why do these drugs repair organs the way they like, why do they have this beneficial effect on these target organs? And it's really a
Mhm.
mysterious and fascinating. I explore it a little bit in this forthcoming piece, but it's a fascinating question of how does that happen? Because it happens independent of the weight loss. But
Right,
before
because I
before we,
wasn't down 50 pounds yet. I wasn't down 50 pounds.
yes.
So here's a fun one. Mindy wants to know, do you have any fun facts about Dr. Hall you can share? We won't tell.
Okay, fun fact. So he's a very creative person. Like, I don't know what I had in my mind about what scientists are really like, because he's extremely methodical, extremely logical. The way he's done his experiments, which I didn't appreciate until writing this book,
Mhm.
he comes up with a mathematical model to kind of make a prediction about some facet of our biology or diet, and then he designs the experiment to test that model and that prediction, and then he designs like subsequent experiments to fill in the gaps for the thing that any questions or limitations that might have he might have thought of after the fact or want to test in addition. But then he has this whole creative side. So he had like great ideas when we were writing the book. Like he definitely, he's not writing for a lay audience all the time. So that was for sure. Like, and he'll talk about this openly. It was more challenging, but he had great ideas about like how to approach stories. I used to play in a band when he was young. I
Yeah,
don't know if
Broke
he still
Toad.
plays in a band. Yeah, that's right. And I know he does all kinds of like fun, creative things with his kids. And yeah, he has this very like it's a real part of his personality, like quirky, like off the wall thinking, out of the box.
Hmm.
Um, I facet to him that you wouldn't maybe think about when you see like the physicist or scientist in the white coat. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that was fun to get to know and to work and a fun reason to work with him. Like it was interesting to work with him because his mind just went to such funny places in our conversations and when we were thinking about telling the stories and structuring the book.
Yeah, very cool. And Mindy also asks, um, what other topics would you like to write about? Are there any more books in your future?
Yeah, so one thing that a topic I would like to write about, but I'm so engrossed in the health stuff, I never have a chance, is this like the global life stuff. So I'm from Canada. I lived in many different countries. I married my husband who's from Germany, and we're raising these kids in other countries. And it has many wonderful things about it, has many challenges. And it's an area I really want to explore. And I think there's lots of people like us who are did not, yeah, raising kids or families not where we're from, or yeah, they're sometimes called third culture kids, but
Yeah.
it's now even more complicated because sometimes, yeah, you have the parents from two different places, and then you're in another place that's not the country of either of you. And so this issue I really want to explore in my writing, but I haven't had a chance.
Oh, that would be really
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
That would be fascinating. And Jeff asks, what do you think is the most important idea you would want your readers to take away from reading Food Intelligence?
Yeah, so I think if you think about these foods, so it's not like all food. It's like really that this there's like a subset of foods that are just very irresistible, designed for overeating, or they don't necessarily have to be industrially designed. It can be like your grandma's apple pie. It's high
Hmm.
sugar and fat, and you just want to eat like the whole thing. So there's this subset of foods that basically it's not about you, it's the food. It's really the
Mhm.
food, and it's not even just the particular foods. Because if you had your grandma's apple pie once a month or even once a week, you probably wouldn't have a struggle with diet-related chronic disease. It's the food environments that we live in where the absolute unhealthiest foods are the most accessible, available, affordable, heavily
Hmm.
marketed, in your face, and the foods that we all know we should be eating more of, the fresh fruits, vegetables, legumes, these foods tend to be, not only are they minimized in our food environments, but they're harder to come by, harder to prepare. They take, yes, I guess you can eat like rice and lentils every night, but no one wants to do that. And so to
Right.
cook these fresh meals and procure the ingredients and do the grocery shopping and the meal planning and, yeah, the actual cooking, the washing and the cutting the vegetables, the cooking and the washing and tidying up afterwards, it's a big commitment. And it's a
Hmm.
commitment a lot of people don't have the time for. And so I think at every level possible, like from your home to your children's school to your workplace, to your town, to your city, to your country, at every level possible, we need to be pushing to invert this food environment so the healthy stuff is easier to eat, easier to come by, more affordable, more accessible, more available, and the less
Yes.
healthy foods are minimized. Like they can still be there and they can still be part of our lives, but they shouldn't be the dominant. If we know that many people really struggle with these foods and they promote overeating and weight gain, they shouldn't be the dominant element in our food environments. And so, yeah, I had that, I guess, success personally by shifting my own food environment. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone has a supportive partner, has the resources, the time. I think my weight story would be very different if I married someone who had obesity, for example, because people who struggle with weight, what they know about people like me and like you, we're very susceptible to our environments. And
Yes.
so when you're in an environment like, I live with like someone he runs marathons and he's like he's very healthy, and it definitely has impacted how I eat and what I eat. And if he was
Hmm.
like someone who wasn't doing that, I'm sure I would probably weigh more and struggle more. So anyway, that's just to say not everyone has these resources and this possibility to engineer or like optimize these food environments. But to the extent we can and we have the time and wherewithal to do, we need to be, yeah, thinking about creating that inversion where, yeah, you have more of the healthy stuff and less of the junk.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
That was
Oh, how has your life changed since publishing this book? Has it changed at all?
It's changed for the probably for yeah, much for the better, because writing a book with 2 little kids was extremely challenging. Like,
Hmm.
I think when you have small children to take care of, so much of obviously your attention and focus is going toward that, but then a book also requires this enormous amount of attention and focus. So I definitely feel like I'm becoming more human again or something. Like I just have the time to, yeah, downtime and to do, like, I started to take a painting class and like do these things that I just had no time for a year ago. So this is the biggest thing. And then I think the thing that's been so nice is connecting to people like you who feel like
Oh,
touched by the book and that the book
mhm.
has helped them, and you get to talk to them now in this virtual world. It's so much easier, right? So
Yes.
that has been very heartwarming and yeah, a wonderful part of publishing, a wonderful change since publishing this book.
Awesome. And who was one of your mentors?
One mentor who really shaped my life was Helen Branswell, who is this amazing Canadian, but she was also based out of the States for a long time, infectious disease reporter. So she covered the coronavirus pandemic like nobody else. And she was someone who, yeah, just at these like pivotal moments would come in and give advice that turns you one way or another in your life. But she was definitely, yeah, she was a wonderful mentor, and she was the reason I ended up in the States.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yes, yes, yes. So she was, yeah, just a more senior reporter and someone who's become a friend since.
Thank you so much, Julia, for taking this time with us today, especially with the time differences. So I know
and two
it's,
little kids.
yeah, 2 little kids. So I know it's very, very late in Paris right now, but we really appreciate you being here for us and answering all of these questions. It's just been delightful. And I look forward to reading new books that you publish and that Kevin Hall publishes. And I hope you do another one together as we learn even more about GLP-1s and other things that we can do to make our food environments better. All right, everybody, hold on to your anchor moments and make it a great day. Bye bye.
Bye.